Hi, welcome back. In this session, we will study about the data disk snapshot. So what exact data disk is and how we can take a snapshot of this. So if you see the diagram, before going there, what we can do is we can just understand the definition here. So what is a snapshot first? So an Azure snapshot is a read-only copy of the existing disk in the Microsoft Azure cloud. And we can create a snapshot of the OS or a data disk. So if you see in this diagram here, we have two disks which is attached here to a VM. So I have a OS disk and I have a data disk. So you can take a snapshot of both the OS as well as the data disk. Now this snapshot can be used as a backup. So what is the main purpose of taking a snapshot is to take a backup of the specific disk. And then this snapshot can also be used to create a virtual machine, and we can create a full snapshot or an incremental snapshot. So if you see here in the diagram, what exactly is we are doing here is this is a VM, and we will see in the lab also how exactly we can create a VM and attach a data disk to it, and how we can take a snapshot for it. So if you see here, this is a data disk, and I'm taking a snapshot of this data disk. And after taking a snapshot, what you can do is you can create a disk out of it, and you can attach to a separate VM. So same data disk, if you want to attach to a separate VM, in this case we have a VM2, you are taking a data disk from VM1. So for first, what you have to do is you have to take a snapshot, and then you have to attach that snapshot as a disk to the VM2. So this is what exactly we will see in our hands-on here. So let's go back to a portal. So in this portal, let me go back to my virtual machine. So I have to create two virtual machines, which is VM1 and VM2. So let me create a VM machine here as a VM1, and let me show you how exactly we can create a data disk. So this is my subscription. I can create a new resource group. So in my previous videos I've explained how to create a resource group and what is the advantage of this. So I will say a VM1 here, and let me take a US East US as a region. Let me take Windows 2019 as my server, and I'm just taking an Azure Spots instance here just for the sake of the pricing here. And if you see, I've taken one vCPU and 3.5 GB, so keep the cost as minimum, and you can give any username and password which will help you out to log into this Windows server, because here we have selected as a Windows server. And once we do this, let me go to the disk. This is what I want to show you. So now I'm going to a disk. So now this is my OS disk. So let me take a standard HDD, because if I take a premium, I think there is some restriction on my account. So I will take a standard HDD, but you can take any hard disk, SSD standard, or you can take premium also. So right now I'm taking HDD here, standard, and encryption type I'm keeping default. And if you see, there is a data disk here, so I can create a data disk here. So for example, say VM1 data disk 0, this is the disk which is created, and sources, basically right now I'm creating an empty disk here, and I can change the size here. So let me take again HDD. But when you guys do it, and if you don't have any restriction on your account, you can, I would suggest to select the premium SSD in both the cases. So let me select your HDD here, 32 GB I can keep it minimum. And yeah, so this is what my data disk is here. So let me say okay here. So if you see here, there are two disks here. This is what we saw in the diagram also. So if you see here, I have a OS and I have a data disk. So if you see here, this is my OS disk type, which is again standard HDD. And if you see my data disk, which is again my standard HDD with 32 GB as my size here. And I can say read only, read and write. So let me say read and write here. Okay, so OS disk will have all the OS specific things installed on this disk, and this data disk basically is for all your files and everything. And if there is an application installed on this machine, it can go and write everything on this data disk. So let me go back to next, and let me, so now I will just follow the steps, and I will create the virtual machine. So let me create the virtual machine again, come back on this session. So here I was able to create a data disk here. So if you see here, this is my data disk with 32 GB, and this is standard HDD, and this is 500 maximum IOPS is given by this standard HDD. So this is just for testing purpose. So usually in production you can go with the ultra or with the premium HDD or SDD, basically, which whatever is your use case for this. Now what we will do, so we have like a VM1 with us now. With this VM1, what I will do is I can create a snapshot of this. So this is the disk, this is the data disk. So what exactly we are doing is, let me go back to my diagram. So this is my VM1. I have a OS and I have a data disk. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking a snapshot of this data disk, which is on this step. So we are right now doing this data disk snapshot. So let me go back to this. So this is my data disk and I'm trying to take a snapshot of this. So let me take a snapshot here. So snapshot will also be in the same resource group, and let me take let me say here VM1 data disk snapshot. Okay, so this is the name which I've given here. So VM1 data disk snapshot. So you can take a full snapshot, you can even take a incremental. So from where you left or whatever was the delta, it will take a delta and the incremental of this data disk. So right now I'm taking a full snapshot of this, and I will go to the next encryption. I will take a default encryption, and so there are multiple connectivity methods here: public, private, endpoint, and all deny all. So I will keep as public endpoint, so all the networks can go and access this snapshot. So you can even tag it if you want. So this is for just for our demo purpose. So I will keep it blank, and then I can create a snapshot here. So this will create a snapshot with the name as VM1 data disk snapshot. Okay, and then this snapshot will go and connect to the VM2. So let me come back once we create this, because this will take time to create the snapshot of this. So I will come back once this is up and running. So I was able to create a snapshot for this. So if you see here a VM1 data disk snapshot. So this is my snapshot, and this snapshot was taken from the VM1 data disk. So let me again go back to my diagram. So here if you see the snapshot is ready. Now to attach a snapshot to any other VM2, because the whole idea is to take a backup of this data disk from VM1 and connect it, or maybe you can keep it for your reference. But if you want to connect and connect to VM2 or some other VM, you can take a snapshot of this and you can connect to it. But before connecting this snapshot to the VM, we have to convert this snapshot into a disk. So what I mean is, if you see here, this is my snapshot. So first I will create a disk from the snapshot. So I will say create a disk from here, and I can say here VM1 data disk, or I can say VM2 data disk, because I'm connecting to VM2, and I can change the size. I can go from premium to HDD, but again I will suggest to go with the premium, because with the HDD I think going down the line you can see what exactly the issue is. So but right now I will go with this HDD. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm converting this data disk. Before attaching to VM2, I have to convert this data snapshot into a disk. So this is my resource group. This is the new name of my disk, which will go zone. You can keep it as none, and size I've selected default size here. Then I will go to encryption, keep the default encryption, keep the endpoint as public, and then keep this as default. This is also default, and then I will go and create this. So let me create this and again come back. So here if you see now the VM2 data disk is ready here, and now this disk we will go and connect to a VM2. So how to connect this is basically this is the name of the disk which you have. So since this is a HDD, so let me go and see. So now for this we have to create a new virtual machine. So this virtual machine, let me say as a virtual machine as VM2. So I will give a name as VM2, and this is my resource group. I will keep as the same resource group which I did for my VM1. So this is my same region I've kept same as VM1, and this I will say 2019 Windows Server. This also I will take as a Azure Spot. You can give any username which you want, and the password which is required for this. Okay, now let's go to this disk. This is very important. So now this is my OS disk. So okay, now this is the main part here. This is the data disk. So now there are two options here. So if you have seen in VM1 what we have done, we have created and attached a new disk. But now what I need is I need an existing disk here. So if you see here VM2 data disk, so I can see a VM2 data disk here which I created, and this is shown up here. So this VM2 is nothing but this is the backup what we have taken from VM1. So let me go back to my diagram and summarize everything here. So in VM1 we took a backup, we took a snapshot of data disk, and this was a snapshot. Then we converted the snapshot before attaching to VM2 into a data disk, because that's what we have to do it. You cannot directly go and attach a snapshot to a VM2 or to any VM. So now here what I've done is I created a disk and then attached the disk here. So now if you have seen here, if you see here, if I go and attach, so I will go and say attach an existing disk, because I need a backup disk to be part of this new virtual machine. Okay, So this is what exactly the whole use case about this lab was. So now let me go back to networking. The same way, you create a VM, you tag it, you review it, and then finally you create the virtual machine. So let me create the virtual machine here. So validation passed, and this will create a virtual machine. So hopefully this was useful and this added a value. So the whole concept, whole idea was to take a backup. So in real life scenario, in production scenario, there may be a case you have to take a backup of the existing data disk, and then once you take a backup, you want this data to be part of some other VM, maybe in some other resource group or in some other region. You have to spin up a second VM which should go and take a backup, maybe for testing purpose. If you want to replicate any issue which is happening in any other environment, so you take a backup of this, take a snapshot, and attach to a second separate VM, and you do a debugging in that environment. So you don't touch the existing live environment, or if there is some testing going on which may impact the existing testing or existing team members who are working on that VM. So you take a backup of this and you take a snapshot. In the snapshot, you go and attach to a separate VM, and then maybe a development team can go there and they can do the debug and finally find the issue, what exactly was going on. So this is what the whole purpose of taking a backup and taking a snapshot in Azure. So hopefully this was useful to you guys, added a value. Thanks for watching.